and oh, sorry for that. I hardly hear that Amazon is down and they are trying to figure out or you cannot access Amazon sites when you want to buy something. This is because they have broken down their endpoints into different, they have broken down their applications, their services into different endpoints. They can just speak over, communicate over a well-defined APIs, but they're already different, such that when an issue happens now, you already know where it's coming from. And that is the idea behind microservices. Or is breaking down a whole lot, breaking down something that is inculcated together and separating them into their separate functions. This is an authentication service. This is an authentication service. This is a login. This every endpoint separated, and that is the idea of microservice. Now, talk about another advantage of microservice. When we have as our code base grows, you have issues can spring up. I've worked in a place where you can want to review code and you have 5,000 lines of code. When there's an issue, when customers are suffering, how do you go about 1,000 lines of code? 5,000 lines of code and try to resolve issues? Microservice has really helped to break this thing into different units, such that there's no downtime, there's adequate scalability, and companies tend to have more profits. The business tends to grow, and this is one of the major. These are the advantages of microservices. So let me take it out to how we now manage these microservices. How do we manage it? How do we ensure that these endpoints, there's no issue with any one of them? And if there's issue, how do we know period the time? How do we manage this? And this was taking us down into our topic of today, which is monitoring microservices with Prometheus and Grafana. Managing microservices involves majorly monitoring and observability. If I'm handling an application today and I know that I'll have to use this application for a period of time without having to okay, let me not even say a period of time. An application needs to be up and running 24 hours so that customers can be able to access and do everything we have to do. Not just applications, our services. How do we monitor this thing? How do we know maybe when we're about to have a downtime? You don't have to wait until, the CPU is already down, the server is completely down, you don't have to wait, because that already brings a lot of issues, you have too many things to even handle at a time. And this can lead to a downtime of hours that every other person is trying to resolve. So monitoring and observability has really helped over the time to manage microservices. Monitoring is control system for microservices, and it gives for the given changes that we have to software delivery, which is trying to change, maybe there's an update on an app today, you're pushing to production. How do you monitor the latest change on your apps, on your services? How do you know that what you just deployed is working fine? This is where observability comes into place and has inculcated monitoring into it. So as microservices become more complex and harder to understand, its performance, and it's important to do a lot of monitoring and observability to aid performance and troubleshoot the problems. Every DevOps team looks for tools that offer them visibility and understanding of how their complex containers work. And instead of going around and trying to check ports, trying to know what is happening, monitoring and observability has really helped to condone downtime, to condone issues in software delivery services. Yeah. So to understand why our services can just stop working, to understand what can happen, to help us to know ahead of time where issues might tend to come up in our applications and our services, we need to do a lot of monitoring and observability. And this is what takes us to getting data from from these systems, from our applications, from our services. This can be done by getting data that your service and system is generating as it is running. As our applications are running now, as customers are trying to like maybe use your apps, somebody is trying to access your services, the in-house applications at work are trying to, people are trying to access them, like maybe staffs of an organization. Their data, they are going to like, something like collected from log files, metrics, counters. These things have a place where it's being stored on this, on our, somewhere on the service, somewhere on the application. And this is collected, this can also be collected from log files. So, I remember then when I used to do a lot of support work, when an issue happens, just like, oh, let's check the log, let's check the log, let's check the log. From the log files, you can see, you can, as software engineers, we write a lot of logs, like errors, like to the code, so that you can be able to access it on the log files. So our applications can have, like, when it's running, can have a lot of data that can be checked. You can know the last minutes that the CPU went down. You can check, oh, what's the heap size? What's happening around the heap? So this was, for this purpose, we'll be discussing metrics, because Prometheus and Grafana works with metrics. And that is what will be taking us to discussing more on Prometheus. What are metrics? Metrics are like numerical measurements, like what you can just get for a particular time period. They are like running over time. Like I said, when you are using applications, metrics, like it's like recording logs, everything is going to you. The last time the Windows shut down, everything is logging somewhere. And the metrics are being stored in a place. So metrics helps us to figure out the reason behind our application's behavior. Let's assume that we're running a very simple web application and find out that it is running slow than our expectation for a particular day. We can say that, oh, it's because we can say that the reason for the slowness is because a lot of visitors are coming to the website, or maybe a lot of people are like too many customers at a time. But we are not sure. We can only calculate, maybe you can use like a request count metrics to understand what is happening on the app. And with Prometheus, we can actually do a lot with metrics. Prometheus collects metrics from itself and other elements. Prometheus is, this is just like an overview of what we're doing today. And Prometheus can be integrated as a data source for visualization with Grafana. Grafana listens to Prometheus and sends configured alerts to Slack via API. You can as well get on your email, you can get on your anywhere, so you know what is happening on your applications. So going deep down into Prometheus and discussing Prometheus before I go into showing the screen, and I'm trying to like work on the hands-on on this. Prometheus is like is one of the most popular tools used for metrics collection, most especially for application and services. It is a time series database metrics aggregator designed to monitor targets. And what do we mean by targets here? For Prometheus, you configure targets. Your targets are your services. They are your application services. They are your servers. They are your databases. They are like the things that your app, your services generally, those are targets. And they are the things that our metrics aggregate with, such that can be monitored effectively. Instead of our services pushing metrics to Prometheus, just like our database is the way it works, Prometheus pulls metrics from your service over HTTP periodically at configured intervals. So it does a lot of scraping. You can configure this in your config. I'm still going to like show this in the configuration file for Prometheus. So you just configure it over a particular time, probably for every 5 seconds. So it pulls metrics and it refreshes every 5 seconds, so you know what is happening on your app. You can as well do like configure it in such a way that you get updates in when it's like maybe you configure your CPUs to be like, oh, when it's less than 20%, or maybe when it's less than, it should send you a notification. you're definitely going to get it. So Prometheus expects services to make their endpoints exposing all metrics in a particular format. All we need to do now is to tell Prometheus the address of such services. You just put in the address, the local host, the IP. Maybe you are using a Docker container, the IP, you put it on it and you configure it on a particular port for proper configuration and to get this time series metrics. Prometheus also work with alert manager. You can send notification to Slacks without even still going into Grafana. Prometheus itself as an alert managing tool that you download and configure to make it work. So let me just before I go deep, let me just show Prometheus on I think I have downloaded it and I'm just getting it started. So because I've downloaded Prometheus on my laptop for the purpose of this training, Prometheus can be accessed once you download it. It doesn't require, let me just go to the, I think Prometheus. That's where you see download Prometheus. So there's download their website here. On the website, they already have a very easy documentation. I think Prometheus is actually one of the easiest like monitoring tool to like work with, because I've actually worked with Dynatrace before. So that one was kind of like very you don't want to like go into, doesn't like give a lot of simplicity the way Prometheus breaks things down, makes it easy. So downloading, you download whether you use Windows or any other thing, you download, and when you download, it just goes to probably your program files or wherever you choose to store it. And for me, I just downloaded a file somewhere in my downloads folder, and this is the file that was downloaded from their website. And
sorry, Sherry. So I think you might need to share the other screen because we are still seeing the presentation.
Oh wow, sorry. Oh wow, sorry. Okay, let me just do my entire screen. I don't know. Okay, let me just let this go. I'm sorry. Let me just open. Can you guys see this?
Yes, it's fine. It's fine now.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I didn't get the option to show my entire screen. I don't know why. Probably I'll just be navigating it. I'm so sorry for that. Yeah, so this is like let me just take it back to when I was talking about the website, and this is the Prometheus website. This is where you get to download, and everything about downloading it is very seamless and very easy. If you go through the documentation here, you're going to see how to download. If you have Windows, you download. If you use Linux, probably on your VM, you download. And yeah, this is pretty much it to download Prometheus. Now, when you download it, it's not like you have to like start like install something. No, it goes to like your program files. And for me, I put mine in my downloads folder. Please, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in my downloads folder, this is Prometheus itself. And this is the application, and this is my configuration file. Everything about this happens in the configuration file. I'll be sharing my configuration file, and I don't want to just talk about Prometheus alone now before going, because they are all interconnected. So let me just explain this. So before we go into full details, just understand one step at a time. So this is the configuration file for Prometheus, and as you can see, you already talked about the script interval. That's the interval you want your metrics to, like maybe every 15 seconds. Maybe you can make it default 1 minute, but then a bit of this is commented out. So script timeout is like you just set it to like a global default. So most people set their own to like 10 seconds. So that for it to just like refresh your metric to refresh every 10 seconds. So this is like the alert manager configuration. And on the Prometheus website, you can see where to download the alert manager. This works in hand with Prometheus. And once it's configured on your Prometheus, you will be able to comment this out. These that I commented. So you'll be able to, so like you use this that I commented out because I didn't download it. So I'm going to use Grafana. I'm going to use Slack for the purpose of this training. So, but you can as well do a lot with Alert Manager from Prometheus. But most time it requires SMTP, email, and all of this. So, but then it can be done. So for this, you can see that my job name Prometheus. So everything you have to do for your configuration, adding the metrics part, you can do everything here. This is where you have to put in the URLs and like you configure Prometheus to respond to a particular, to pull metrics from any service that you want. This is like the place that you put in your URL. If you have an app, this is where you put it. Except, okay, no, I'm not going to that yet. So this is where you put it when you are configuring Prometheus. So let me go so this is the let me find. So this is the application, and you're just going to run it. Once you run it, you are going to like have a pop-up screen on your computer, which is this, showing. Can you see my screen, please? Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see your
screen.
Okay, thank you. So this is, once you run the Prometheus.exe file, this is this shows you that your Prometheus is running, and you can go, because it has been configured itself on this port. For mine, and I think generally Prometheus is configured on port 1990. So once I start the exe file, I'm going to go to my browser. I'm going to go to my browser. Okay, yeah, this is my browser. So, and if I do localhost 1990, I can see that my Prometheus is up. This shows that it is working. This shows that Prometheus itself is collecting metrics without even, now I've not added anything. This, like, it shows that it's up. If you didn't get, maybe so for some reasons, there might be issues with like writing that configure in your configuration file, maybe with syntax issue or all this column and all of these things, comma and all of this, like, can just check properly. That's like most times one of the reasons why it might not work at first, but it's most times around the way you write your local host, the way you put the IP, the way you put the metrics part. This can be like one of the reasons why it might not come up. But if you look into it very well, you will definitely be able to access the local host on 1990. So Prometheus itself already has like a bit of like metric that it collects. So you can see from here, you can have your own graphs. You can check from, can you see? It has a lot of heap allocation bytes. It has a lot of memory. But then I'm not going to go into that now, but it has a lot of metrics, counters, gauge already on it. You can do anything with it. You can create graphs with it. So, but let me go back to our slide so we can do everything together the way we can work in hand with Grafana and the service I'll be using to test this. So let me just go back to my slide. Yeah. So this is like an overview of what's Prometheus and Grafana, how it works. Applications, your service. Prometheus pulls some metrics from them, pulls data from them. And on Grafana, Prometheus is added as a data source. Grafana is for visualization, right? And you can, on Grafana, you can as well configure your app to send alerts, email, Slack, and any other thing you want. Grafana is for visualizing data. The essential things that it does is for us to be able to walk into the office and you see your screen. Or maybe there's a particular URL that everybody in the company has, every DevOps team has, that even you can open on your phone and see it and see how it works. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what is happening on my app now. So the purpose of Grafana is for you to be able to visualize the metrics exposed to Prometheus, having added Prometheus as a data source on Grafana. So you'll be able to see it. You don't even need to stress yourselves. Like walking into your office, I'm like, oh, my CPU is already 20%. I need to quickly check it. My heap memory is already going down. We need to see it. As long as you're not, I'm sorry, as long as you're not on leave, or you're just going to work, or maybe you don't even have to, maybe you're working remotely, or you just open your screen and you see these things every time. This helps you to like check in with your applications, the services, know which one is down, know which one will go down, maybe in the period of maybe cannot even last for, cannot sustain the next 3 days. You will know. Grafana already gives us that visualization view, like helps us like see it. So you don't even have to like stress yourself so much. You can as well, if you don't want to be visualizing it or seeing it, maybe you don't want to be seeing your screen, maybe you don't have maybe that time. You can as well configure the Slack alerts. You just get a pop on your phone. Like mine is open on my phone, it's also open on my laptop. So at any point, if there's an issue on a server or on a service or on an app, I just know, or maybe there's something that I've configured that, oh, if it happens in when this thing is almost 2% down or so, I should get a notification. So I get this all the time. And this is the purpose of this class. This is the purpose of what we're doing today. Trying to inculcate this demo that I just showed is just a screenshot that summarizes everything that it does. So you don't need to go into like stress yourself so much. So for the purpose of this class, I'll be using WMI Exporter. To explain, WMI Exporter just helps you to like get metrics from your laptop, from your Windows system. It's a Windows exporter that you can pull metrics from and expose on Prometheus. I'll also be using the Spring Boot application, which is working with Java and also trying to see how we can like visualize our data and control the CPU, heap memory, and all of that. So going back to Prometheus again, Prometheus it has 4 different parts. It has time series database. It has the exporter, and that's where I'll be using WMI Exporter for the purpose of this training. Exporter are like purpose built for working with specific applications. If you go on the Prometheus website, they already have a lot of exporters that work with them. So WMI Exporter is one of the exporters. They are like external programs that helps to inject data from various sources, and it helps to convert it to metrics that Prometheus can scrape. And if you are working, like we're doing a lot of like, maybe we have a lot of like 50 applications in a company. We have maybe like large organizations that have several applications. There's a way you can also like instrument Prometheus into all these applications aside exporter. And this is like instrumenting custom applications using client libraries. We can, for Prometheus, I think I've worked with JM Exporter before for Java applications. So JM Exporter also helps to scrape, is like a native client for it already works well with Java and Prometheus. So you just have to like write a lot of GMX scripts, and this also like helps to export metric aside from exporter. For Golang, that's any services and applications that are built also with Golang. You can as well also see the instrument, the demo on how to instrument Prometheus into your Go services on the Prometheus website. There's a documentation that works with this. So it is very, very flexible. It can do a whole lot and help to, Prometheus can like help to like put away all of our problems. Like that's like a way I would just say it. So you guys configured via command lines, and the configuration files, like I said, defines everything related to the scraping jobs and their instances. And that's when I showed you how the local host is being like put in your local host and the configuration files, the metrics parts, and a whole lot. Yeah. So Prometheus is configured. I think I've discussed this, so I don't have to repeat myself. So going into WMX exporter as my sample, like what I'll be using, one of the examples I'll be using today is WM Exporter is an exporter for Windows service. And so I'm sorry, before I go into this, does anybody have a question? Because I'm a bit stressed. Or you guys want to wait to the end of the class?
Yeah, there are some questions here, Shay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, someone asked that, can we see the ports from the config file? Because there should be a way to modify the port number because of other apps. So I guess what he's trying to say is, how do we integrate other applications into the config file? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay, this is it. I think I should maybe let me show you guys.
Okay. All right. Okay.
This is it. So this, when you download Prometheus itself, I think I was still going to go be a bit more into that later, but then let me just, so when you download Prometheus itself, Prometheus already have a configuration file that comes with just this. Can you see what I highlighted?
Yes.
Okay, so Prometheus already just have this, and that's all. It's you that will go ahead and try to like put in your job name and your target parts. For the purpose, I was going into WMI exporter before I asked if anyone had a question. This, can you see what I highlighted here is my own URL for my WMI exporter. I was the one that put in this into this configuration file. This is also the one for the Java Spring Boot application that I'll be working with later. This is also the endpoint to collect data. Can you see? I was the one that put it. I just commented that so that anybody that sees the config will be able to know that this is. So can you see that you can just do it yourself? What you need to do is just bring the link, the IP and the port number, and you put it on your Prometheus inside this configuration file and save it. Then restart your Prometheus.exe file, exe app. And that's all. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Daniel, okay. Does this answer the question you asked?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Is there another one?
No, we can actually move forward.
Okay. So going into the WM exporter, like I said, is an exporter for Windows service, and it exports metrics so that the CPU usage, the memory, the disk I/O usage. So the WM exporter is used to monitor IIS and sites. Is used to install on your Windows laptop, so you can just like download it online. And the hold on before I go into that. Yeah, this let me show it again. This is the. So for my WMI exporter now, this is my WMI exporter. I just highlighted it. I added this to the config. So you just highlight it. Your WM exporter is configured to like work on a particular app, on a particular port. For the purpose of this training, I'm working with ports 9182. And that's why I put it on the Prometheus config so that it will be able to scrape metrics from it. I can install WMX exporter on my system and it should not be able to talk to Prometheus, and Prometheus should not be able to listen to it because I did not configure it in the configuration file. So they don't have any connection. But once this is done, you'll be able to see it as a target on Prometheus. So let me just stop sharing. Oh, sorry. So let's try to access the local host 9182. Can you see this is my Windows exporter? Without even Prometheus, this is what you're going to, this is how we're going to, like, this is what shows you that what you downloaded and installed is working very fine. Then this takes us to our metrics. This takes us to the metrics from my computer, the CPU usage, and this also applies to your containers, our containers. You can as well use this to, like, it might not be a WMI exporter, it might be an exporter for Linux too that works well with it, just to get the allocated objects, the heap memory, the size, what is wrong, or you just to get like the metrics and the data, the CPU usage. You can see a lot of these metrics, see the Windows CPU core frequency. All these things are being added what we have on my computer now. So this metric, the WM Explorer is pulling these metrics. And because it has been configured on Grafana, like I showed you earlier, we can go to Grafana, we can go to Prometheus, that's Prometheus. Because it has been configured in the configuration file for Prometheus. If we go into Prometheus now, we are going to see this WMI exporter as a target. Meaning that Prometheus is listening to it and is getting metrics from it, and this metrics is ready for visualization. It's ready for anything you want to use it for. So let me take us to our Prometheus, and let's go to status. Let's go to targets. So please just ignore this Java for now, because I just did it. This is the targets that we have, because this is the target that I have set in my config. If I remove Java from the config now, you will not see it again. If I remove WMI exporter, you will not see it again. So you can see that my WMI exporter is already configured on Prometheus. And if you click on this link, this is the link that you can see that this was what was added in the config as a target line, as target URL, sorry. So if you click on it, you can see that. If you click on it, you're going to see the same thing that we saw the other time. Can you see that the local host has changed my my laptop's name? So this is what WMI exporter does. It pulls CPU metrics, input and output usage, this usage from your computer. And we're using WMI exporter today because we're working with a Windows laptop. Whatever OS you want to work with, there's an exporter for you. Whatever service you want to work with, there's a way you can instrument Prometheus into it. And this is for Windows. So let me just, think on that's the line. Back to the slide. Now let's take it further a bit. So working with Grafana. I don't know if anybody have any question, or should just proceed. Does anyone have any question, or should proceed? From everything we've done before we go into Grafana.
Okay, I have a question, please. So for this WMI exporter, okay, so for example, you want to also monitor.
Please, can you speak a bit louder?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so say for example, you want to monitor a server, an application that is on another server. So do you also install WMI exporter on that server? Say it's a Windows server.
What do you mean? An application that is on a server?
Yeah, okay. For example, this WMI exporter you have now is installed on your local machine, right? And it monitors
Yes,
the metrics of your local machine. So if
yes.
you want to monitor the metrics of a server, a remote server, so do you have to also install WMI exporter, say for example on cloud, on Azure, or AWS? Do you have to
So
install?
this is for every, if, so the reason why we are using WMI is Windows exporter. Why we are using it? Because we are using a Windows system. If you want to use a Linux exporter, you can get a Prometheus. Once there's a Prometheus client library that works with that, you can also install that on that server.
Okay.
I think I've been able to like do something on Linux before, that you download an exporter also for Linux. And so for every of this, if you have a server on the cloud, on AWS cloud, it has an operating system. Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So the thing is to look for the if you get the exporter for your OS, do you get, for your operating system?
Okay.
So regardless of wherever the operating system, wherever it sits, it will definitely export metrics. Once there's a client, once there's an exporter for it from Prometheus. Do you understand?
Okay, it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, so it works like whether it's cloud or on premise. Okay. So you can also, this also works with SQL and works with every other thing that you might want to like. So I think before I start Grafana, I feel that because so that we can like put everything into so that everything can work, so that Grafana can be the last thing that we'll discuss, and we can like go into details with the visualization. I think I'll just discuss the Spring Boot application so that it can go alongside with WM Exporter. So for the purpose of this training, I'll be using a Spring Boot actuator with Prometheus and Grafana. Like we said earlier, that monitoring application health is important on the production environment. We can monitor on different, like I already said on that, I spoke a little bit on that, on monitoring on different apps, on different services, anything you want to do. We can monitor and do everything we want. But for the purpose of this training, I'll be working with this, integrating a Spring Boot actuator. Spring Boot actuator is like it provides like a production ready feature for any Spring Boot application. Anybody that writes Java code, we understand what I mean. And this is not just a Java thing or it can work with, Prometheus can work with any of your service, any of your language, anything that any of your, maybe you are writing your code in Go, in Python, it can work with them. It's just trying to find what exactly work with it, probably a client library. Apart from this Spring Boot actuator, where we'll be using Micrometer today to collect metrics for Java application. Java also have JMX exporter that you can use to scrape metrics from applications itself. And Go also has, most of them have a client library that work with Prometheus. I'm just trying to say this, so maybe because you don't write Java language does not mean that it's not going to work. No, it can work. Yeah, so Micrometer is like a simple facade for collecting metrics inside Java applications. It is a dimensional first metric collection facade whose aim is to allow you count and grade your code with a vendor neutral API. So it just works with you enabling actuator in the Spring Boot. So to enable this actuator, I'm going to like take you to my code now. Please give me a few minutes. I'll take water. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen. Yeah, where's my Eclipse? Oh, okay, sure. Okay. I think before I come here, let me show you how I configure this here, so that I can understand. Okay. So for you to be able, for Prometheus to also listen to this, to be able to also configure this, sorry, to be able to get metrics from this, our Spring Boot actuator today, it also needs to be, this target metrics URL too needs to be added on in your Prometheus configuration. And that takes me back to our, So this is the, I'm sorry. So this is the endpoint to collect data from my local host. That is where I have this Java service running. Before even coming to the Prometheus configuration, before even trying to know that, oh, let me check if this is going to work on Prometheus, we are supposed to have your local host try to browse to it on 8081 is going to work. And generally, when you're trying to do use micrometer with Spring Boot actuators, it generally is configured on port 8080, but I don't know, I think something else is working on my own port 8080, so I changed it to 8081 in the applications of property files. So this is just the Java service now, and this applies to any other thing you're trying to do. It could be a Go service, it could be anything, it could be Python. You just come here and add the endpoints to collect the data, and that's all. Prometheus will be able to listen. Like I said, you can install, you can make your application running, and it should not be talking to Prometheus if you don't configure it in this configuration file. Prometheus will not get the metric from. So at every point, anything you do, any applications you try to set up, any service, anything, you have to come to the Prometheus configuration file to put in these targets, your target URLs and whatever you want, maybe you want the path to go do this, that you need to go to actuator, then talk to Prometheus. You have to configure it here. If not, nothing's going to work. Prometheus is not going to get the metrics, and it's just like you have not done anything. So let me just go to, let me go back to my Eclipse and try to go deeper on this is my Spring Boot micrometer. This is the app. I just did something very, very simple, just pushing time series collection via HTTP, just for the purpose of this. And you can also it works if you want. I think a lot of people write codes here, so you know that you can also make it work on any of the system. So at first you need to enable actuator in this Spring Boot, and that is because we are working with this. If it's another application, you might just need to instrument it, and maybe you're trying to put in, maybe there's something on Prometheus website that says that. Let me just check it a bit so we don't. Let me see if there's something we'll say. Yeah, okay, so this is it. This, you can see that this is, I think you can see my screen, you can see that I'm on the Prometheus website, and these are the client libraries that you can work with. All you need to do is to click on this, click on each, maybe you're writing Go, you're writing Java, you're writing Python, you're writing any of these languages. Can you see them? It works with, you can instrument Prometheus into your code using the Prometheus client library itself. So you don't, the configuration might be a bit difficult, right? It's nobody told, even Prometheus not tell us to be, it will be very, very seamless, but there's already something that is already for you to monitor your services, Prometheus are already provided. So all you need is to try to put in, instruments your code with one of these Prometheus services. And that depends on the language you're writing. I remember when I worked on Go, I think that one it requires to put in a lot in your service, put in a lot in your, for Go, you have to amend your code for Java, I think I used GMX exporter. GMX exporter, you just need to like add scripts to make, you add like a GMS script and configure on ports for different services that you're going to do. So this client library is already on the website. You just click on it, like let me just click on this go, and you can go through it and you see how instrumenting this app, what you are going to do. Like if you go through the process, it is kind of seamless, but I'll show you something. It's not like kind of very seamless, but it's something that we can all go through. So let me go back to the Spring Boot actuator that I'll be using. So for the purpose of this, you have to ensure that this feature to monitor for Prometheus to be able to get this micrometer registry on this application, you have to be able to be sure that you have added it in this code. And this is what we have here. Can you see that it's if we go through the this thing, can you see my screen? So this is what I have highlighted here as a dependency in the code. This does not mean that every other application must put in instrument Prometheus on their code. No. This just works. This is the way Spring Boot works for anyone that you want to do for many of your Spring Boot applications. But for this, you will just add this actuator feature to your Spring Boot application, which I've done here. This will help you to expose metric in a format that the Prometheus server can script. Once you save this, and we have already configured this on Prometheus, you don't have any problem. You will come to the application service and try to for me, I just did a bit on my ports, and because like I said earlier, I don't know, something is listening on my 8080, so I'm just like, okay, let me just use this. And my server, I was just like testing, can just like, you can write you can just like try to adjust the very thing, just make sure to confirm that this is going to work. So you can, for your code, you just run it as a Java code, and it's going to, I think, yeah, and it's going to have this running. You're going to confirm once this is running, once you don't have any issue with your code. This is just a simple code. Just once you confirm that everything is running, because if there's an issue with what you added in your code, you're going to get the error message. You're going to try to figure it out. But once this is added, and you're able to like automatically, and this already automatically configures the Prometheus metrics registry. It adds the metric to export the data and to the Prometheus side, so you don't even have anything to worry about again. So just like you can have an application that you have developed like 3 years ago now, and you just want to still expose metric. It's just like you trying to like find what work for it from Prometheus, and such that there will be an handshake. You will not have to be like trying to like make several things. No, Prometheus already have a lot of things designed for all this. So once there's an handshake and everything is fine with Prometheus, and then you can go ahead to confirm on your browser. For me, I did this on 8081, like I said, and let me try and go to my browser. Let me try and go to my, yeah, I think, yeah, this is it. So can you see that this is for my, can you see that this is from my Spring Boot application? If I go ahead to add Prometheus to these endpoints, then I can get all the counter metrics, the threads. Can you see my threads, my JVM thread states? Can you see it? Everything is already, that means Prometheus is already feeding from this, my metrics. Without even going to Prometheus, yes, I can confirm that everything is working on my application. Going to Prometheus, and now if I go to my targets, then you're going to see my Java application. Can you see? You can name it anything you want in the config. For me, I just named it Java. Maybe I should have named it Spring Boot. Anything you want to do, You can give it any name you want. So you can see all this, you will see all this data. You can see all this data here that has been exposed to Prometheus already. And this like helps us see, you can see like it helps, we have like process seconds, the uptime for the JVM service. You can see the uptime, you can see a lot on this. Can you see this garbage collection? It talks, you have a lot, and this is just an example. Can you see it's, as let me just do Control F and just try to like, you can check your threads. Can you see? There's a lot of things to monitor. There's a lot of things that this metrics has already scripted for you to be able to monitor. So you can, there's a whole lot that comes like that this has helped us to like, that has been scripted into this. So whatever you like, you can do with this now. You can try and now say, okay, oh, I don't want to use Prometheus, or I don't want to use this one. I want to use Grafana to visualize it. In as much as Prometheus gives you the opportunity to do a lot, you can do a graph with all these things that you have. You can do a graph demo. You can, let me just try and do like it. You know, you can have, can you see, you can have this graph, you can do a lot of things with Prometheus. It's like trying to like play with making, you can do a whole lot with it. You can set like, maybe I have to like add, do anything you want. You can also configure alerts to work with it. But you know, if you don't come to, if you don't have to, you have to like log in, you have to like do a whole lot. And configuring alerts for it too is like, you have to work with SMTP. Most times you have to like do email, do a lot. And that's like going to take much and a bit of time. So for you to like get everything DevOps, when we talk about DevOps, we want a very seamless and fast way to resolve. You should make sure that there's no downtime. So instead of going through, we can just go to Grafana. Grafana, not that Grafana, we can say it makes life easier, but it just makes it a bit more easier to add, to get, to visualize the data and metrics from Prometheus. Because with that, you can do your Slack, you can do every other thing. You don't have to be consigned to a particular alerting system. So which is what this is, everything you need to do with Prometheus. If you have any issue like trying to like get into your client library, trying to know which one you have to work with, you can just go to the documentation and try to find like which one is it that works with the application I'm working with. How is this going to help me? So that's pretty much it on Prometheus, and I'll be sharing my screen, going back to our presentation, and we'll be going to Grafana. Yeah. So please give me 1 minute. Okay, sorry for that. So I think we're all on the same page, right? And I can go ahead with Grafana.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so so Grafana is an open source analytics and interactive visualization web application. Grafana is something that I really like and I enjoy working with, because it's just something very, you can play with it, you can do a lot with it. You know, it's not even only people that do DevOps alone that uses it. A lot of people that does data analysis, a lot of people use it. So it's a very good, must have skills, like you must like know how to use it, because it's very useful at every point. You know, so Grafana is like, it just helps, it allows you to ingest data from a huge amount of data sources. So like, you know, we have spoken about Prometheus, and Prometheus already is a data source. It has a lot of data, metrics, and also Prometheus helps you to like put this thing on a visualized screen, help you to like display it, let you see it like at a glance. I walk into the office, oh, this thing, my app is bad. Oh, maybe internet banking is not working well, maybe mobile banking is down, making it doesn't even have to be down. Like you can see that maybe it's red, it's 20%, you know. Grafana gives you that view that you want to see. Grafana helps you to you can create charts, you can do anything with it. Like once you start working with it, you see that it's like very easy to work with and kind of also seamless, but it takes like a bit of time. So Grafana doesn't store data. That's one thing I just want us to understand with Grafana. Grafana, you add a data source to Grafana, it doesn't store data. You can add data sources, you can put anything you want, wherever you want it to pull metrics from, you can, but it doesn't store data. So one of the best ways to, practices for software delivery cycle, most especially for DevOps engineering, is to just like use Prometheus as an aggregator to scrape metrics and link it to Grafana. I think it is one of the like kind of very seamless, like it is one of the ways to make our work very easy. You don't have to stress yourself because even if you are not ready to see the viewed screen, Grafana already gives you the opportunity to get it on your Slack. I think Slack is a general thing that everybody uses, right? So it helps you to, even if you are not seeing the screen, you can see your Slack. You can get notification in Slack. It is very, very, there's a lot to do on it, but there's a lot to do on it while it also makes our work very, very easy to do. So Grafana generally is configured on port 3000, except that maybe you are using your port 3000 for another thing, you can reconfigure port. On the normal, all things being equal, it works with port 3000 and it's just regular downloading Grafana. It goes into you just try to download and download online and yeah, I think once it's downloaded, let me just go to my screen. Yeah, so let's try this. I think I'm opening it twice. Okay, so so this is like yeah, this is my dashboard. I was trying to configure this for Slack. I think I'll have to just show it again. I mean, that's my dashboard. Let me get a file where it was downloaded so I can show you. Hey, this is where it's where my Zoom. So this is this is Grafana. I think you can see my screen.
Yes, you can see your screen. You can see your screen.
Okay, so this is Grafana, and you don't really, there's no like much to do on it. It's just adding it, like everything I said. Once you want your Prometheus to work on Grafana, once you want your Prometheus work with Grafana, anything you want Prometheus to work with needs to be configured in the configuration file, and that takes me back to the configuration file. So it has to be configured so that it can just get the metrics from it. So it's already here, and what we're going to do now is for it to work with this, for Grafana to work with Prometheus, it has to be added as a data source. So I think I have even added it already. Yeah, I've added the Prometheus data source, but you can add data source. Can you see? You can add Prometheus. If you have other data sources, can you see the data sources that you can see your MySQL, PostgreSQL,
What we are seeing is the
Microservices.
config for Prometheus also.
What you saying?
What I'm seeing for my end is config for Prometheus. Not the
It's
data
just
source.
like YAML.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you guys see this thing now?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think it has changed
Can you
now.
guys see
It has
Grafana?
changed. Yes, we can see welcome to Grafana now.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about that.
All right.
So when you want to like that applies to other, when you are trying to add other services, but for when you're trying to add other services, you have to add on Prometheus. URL. That's what I was trying to explain. You had everything on Prometheus, like I've been saying, the configuration files. You have to add everything in configuration file. But for Grafana, what you have to do is to add Prometheus as a data source. So I've added this by Prometheus as a data source, right? The one we're working with. But you can add different data sources. Like you can do any, like, can you see my screen to see my SQL works with PostgreSQL works, MS SQL works with this, Azure Monitor, CloudWatch, yeah. CloudWatch actually works with this, can be integrated with this. I think I've done something on that before and it works very seamlessly with it. And, you know, a lot of can you see, like you can have like all these app dynamics, yeah, Dynatrace, you know, every other thing works with it. So for the purpose of this our training, right, we're talking about Prometheus. So Prometheus is the one that we are going to add as our data source. So I've added it and see how you are going to just configure it. It doesn't like just for you to add the URL. I'm sorry. So once you add the URL, you save, and that's pretty much it. So that's for you to create dashboard. I added my Windows node. That is for the WMI exporter, but I'm not ready to like get metrics from it. So for you to like get metrics, maybe you want to, you know, we have these metrics already in a particular, everything in their different local hosts. Talking to Prometheus, everything is talking to Prometheus. So Prometheus has the data for GMM, for WMI exporter, and he asks for the Spring Boot application that actuator that we are just worked on, right? So since Prometheus has these metrics, and all you need to do now is add Prometheus as a data source on Grafana, and that's all. Once you add, Prometheus will be feeding Grafana with anything you want to do. So you can create dashboard, you can do anything with Grafana. You can try to like check your CPU. So I'm just going to show you, because for this to also work, you have to like add, maybe you don't want your work to look some anyhow. Let me just like do like add like a new panel. So this add a new panel is like you're adding a new, you can pick anything, you can like do it like you are using, this is like a time series because the way you want it to be visualized, you can use time series, you can use any chart, you can use bar chart, you can use gauge, you can use anything you want, the way you just want to view your whatever you want to view, right? So you can pick anyone, you can, once you pick anyone, you can, yeah, what you would do with here is I don't know why this is showing my screen. Okay, so yeah, you will try to like select the metrics you want your distance to show you. So let's say you want to see the disk free, your free bytes, you will select the label. Maybe it's an instance or a job. You know, currently we have different jobs. We have WMI exporter, we have Java, we have everything. So you can like run the query. Can you see? So all you need to do here is to try to write like queries, but you don't even have to like write it. By going through all these metrics patterns, the query patterns, you can write it without going through any stress. So you can see what's like at a particular date, at a particular time, what is happening to your CPU, whatever you want to do, you can configure it here. If you want table, if you want, can you see what? So all you need to do, everything you need to do on Grafana to make your metrics, what Prometheus is feeding is seamless, you can do it here. You can add different operations. If you have 1 million applications, you can visualize it on Grafana once it's already collecting metrics from Prometheus. So it just makes everything very seamless, that you just get these metrics, you know, everything, you know, like I said, everything's already on Prometheus. So you don't need to like stress yourself. You can, if you have like 10, like I remember that I worked on services that they were like, I worked on, maybe I can say like the services were 8, 9, 10, okay, 10 services. 8 was Java, 2 was in Golang, and everything I was able to like visualize it on Grafana, because all of them I had already instrumented the code to work and work with Prometheus, so that Prometheus will be able to feed me. Once Prometheus is okay, and you add it as a data source on Grafana, everything is fine. All you need to do is to just be playing with this dashboard. Maybe you want to change the color. If you have 10 apps, maybe you have 10 apps now, you can make your Java blue. Okay, let me just use maybe when I used to work in the bank, and okay, in GT Bank we had GT World, we have internet banking, we have all these different apps like GT Pay. You can make everything show on this dashboard, but has different colors. Like anything, you can just play with it and make sure that, so that when somebody walks into the office, I'm like, this is color yellow. Color yellow is internet banking. Internet banking is almost down. The CPU, you can configure it. Or maybe, and when you're even trying to configure this, maybe when you're doing, let me just go to this, my CPU thing that I did. This CPU time, this has a lot different, I've not even, hold on. Okay. Edit it. Right. Okay. So you can as well, because this is coming from this is coming from the WMI Explorer, which is my CPU. So I'm like which is my Windows laptop. So my Windows server. I'm trying to like get the CPU time. You can make it like, if it's idle for 30 minutes, if you can configure anything you want it to do on it and add the different colors. So it comes like different variants. And then you can like create, this is for memories. I can create as much screen as I want. If memory, if usage, memory, everything, you can just add new and just keep. You can also delete when you like. So the purpose of Grafana is for you to be able to visualize it, see it at a glance without like trying to like go into like, so by you walking into the office, so checking your phone, you already know what is wrong with your application. Is it CPU? So it's you that you measure the type of counters, the grades, the metrics that you want, what you want to monitor. Is you that know what is wrong. Is you that know what's your application, the endpoint. You are the one that know where you want everything to, like what you want to do. And that's pretty much it. So what if you don't like, okay, maybe you don't want to do a lot of maybe you're not somebody that maybe goes into work every time, you don't be logging into your laptop, or you can as well try to do alerting, configure it for alerting. Yeah, and that's what takes me to alerting on Prometheus, sorry, on Grafana. So this already has, Grafana already has everything you want from Prometheus. It already has all the metrics, right, for your application and your services. So the way you had already like put your metrics queries in your panels, in the dashboard, it fits, alerting can fit from it, such that maybe when it's already 20%, you configure it so that it sends you an email, it sends you an alert, it sends you whatever you want to say, like however you want it, you configure it. For me, I named mine Grafana Alert. So it sends to my Slack, because I'm somebody that feels very comfortable with Slack, because it's just like the way my iMessage works, my other media apps. So I get it straight up on my phone. So sometimes, you might feel lazy and don't want to open an email. So for me, I feel that to be more productive, everybody wants to be on their phone. Everybody wants to do WhatsApp. Everybody. So the way you do WhatsApp is the way you should also like inculcate Slack too. So I like Slack because it's very like, when you look at your phone, you see it. And it gets a beep on your phone, because most time people don't want to check emails. So once you test this now, I can test it and send notification. I think I opened my Slack on my laptop. Oh yeah. So if I see, can you see this that I just sent now? This is my Slack. This is just my Slack. I just created this API I just did this Slack API to get Grafana alert. So there's a way you can configure it to work, and that's like just adding a new API and making sure that you add it. It's added by using a webhook URL. So I think let me just show you. I think before I go deep into that. Yeah, so you use a webhook URL. This webhook URL is you've gotten through like you can check it on Slack APIs. So you want to just integrate Slack with so on Slack website, on their documentation file, it is there. So you see the webhook URL and you just pick that, oh, it's web URL that you want to use, and that's what works with Slack. So on Slack, you see it, you get it. So you don't have to like, you get it when your CPU is low, you get it can even show you like a chart of how your Grafana looks right now. So this is like, let me just so this explains how Grafana works and how we can monitor our services using Prometheus, getting metrics on any of our services and visualizing them on Grafana. I just did another screenshot. I just added these screenshots about this. That's what I've showed here. This is like a graph. I think this graph now is my regular I didn't want to like show because it's like a work server, so I don't want to be like show that on the training, but this is like a screenshot showing me, the way it is sending me that test. It can also show you the way your Grafana is looking right now without stressing you. So the way you're even seeing to your phone, you can see your Grafana like screen. So I just added that screenshot to be able to so that you can also like see it, as since we don't have a lot of like services and all that are inculcated into that. So I think that's pretty much it from my end, and I just want to talk briefly on this, but I will not. I think maybe subsequent class, we're going to have like a second class on this. Having understand all this that we have discussed earlier, you can now work on containerization and making Prometheus and Grafana work on your Kubernetes cluster. And this is something I feel that you have to like have a very clear understanding of how Prometheus and Grafana work. Maybe you haven't tested it very on your application before you take it to Kubernetes and configure it, display Kubernetes. It's really very interesting. It's something that you really love to like do. So I really hope that after this class, a lot of us go deep dive into making sure that we practice and understand. And I'm going to drop like my email. And if anyone has any question, you can like after this class, maybe during your hands-on at home, and you can reach out to me. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any question, please share. And it's been a long day. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a lot, Shay. Please, do we have questions? We'll be taking only 2 questions, because of the time.
Because of the time, yeah. I'm sorry to take you guys' time.
Yes, please. We'll be taking only 2 questions, please. So please, if you have questions, kindly go ahead and ask your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Shay. It was an awesome interactive section. My question is, when my data source is not Prometheus, maybe I'm using App Dynamics or maybe SQL Server or any other data source. If I want to maybe like view the metrics, do I have to write the metrics code myself, since I am not picking, I already add it on my Prometheus. So my data source is not typically a different thing entirely. So to get that metric displayed in Grafana, do I need to write the metrics code that will display that for me? That's my first question.
Can I just answer that?
Okay.
So the thing is, for you to even get your metrics to show on Grafana, you have to add a data source. So, and I think I showed that you can add this data source. There are a lot of data sources. There's App Dynamics. There's a lot of things. Just you trying to like make sure that like trying to plug in these services, like these data sources into Grafana. Without that, Grafana will not work. If you don't configure a data source, that's even the first thing. It is when a data source is configured, that is when you can now try and write metrics. Because if you don't write metrics, those metric queries, like Prometheus, they call it prompt queries and all that. If you don't write it, yours visualize this thing will just look somehow and scattered without any, do you understand? So number one thing is you have to add a data source on Grafana. If you know, because there's nothing to show. if you don't have it, if you don't add it. Do you understand? So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, that it does. I don't know if I can see.
What did you say?
Okay, like that was saying we only can take 2 questions. So I wanted to ask maybe if I
You can
have a
ask. And I
okay,
also dropped my email address.
okay, that would be appreciated. I've seen
I think
that.
I dropped it. Let me confirm again before the end of the call. Yeah, I dropped it, so you
I've
can reach
seen
out
it.
to me.
Yeah. Okay, now if I have a jump server, maybe I want to in that jump server I stored all these Prometheus and my Grafana. Then from that server, can I be able to monitor an application server? And that application server is hosting maybe a Java application.
Please, can you talk louder? I'm sorry.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so I have a jump server where I installed my Prometheus and the Grafana for my monitoring activities. So I don't want to install this Grafana and Prometheus on my application server, but I want to monitor the application. It's still a different server entirely. So what I want to get now is how will I do that since it's a different server? All I will be doing in my config file, should I be pointing the home in my config file in that Prometheus? I will be pointing it to the application server, or do I still need to install Grafana in that application server too?
No, just point it to the application server or your instance or your URL. Just point it. But on Graph, all those things needs to be done with Prometheus, right? In the config file. You just add the link endpoints that you want. Do you get? But on
Yes,
Grafana, you will just add that Prometheus that you have added everything. You know, you have configured it, you have done everything. It will work, you will see it. So once you are done with that, that's when you can go and visualize it on Grafana after adding as a data source.
okay. So in my Grafana now, I should now be pointing data source as Prometheus that is sitting on that jump server.
You should now be doing what?
In my Grafana,
Yeah.
so the data source in this case is that still going to be the Prometheus. So
Yes, it
Prometheus
should
will
be
have.
Prometheus.
Okay, I get the logic.
Do you
All right.
understand now?
Yeah, I get the logic. I get it.
Yeah, it will be Prometheus. Everything you need to do is on your Prometheus config. So every business you need on putting in your endpoints is on the Prometheus.
Prometheus,
And you will
okay.
test it. So if it's not working, you're not going to see it under that targets file that I showed you. So let me even like quickly show you, please, just a minute. New share, and this is pretty much it. Where's that screen? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, this is it. So if you don't, all those are your endpoints. These are endpoints, right? If you don't see it here, or maybe it's showing red, that means it's not going to work. That means you have not done it right. Do you get it?
Yeah, I get it.
It is when everything shows as a target here. That's when Prometheus, and that's when you can now add Prometheus as a data source on Grafana.
Okay, I get. So in this case now, let's say this local host will now change to the server, the application server IP and the port.
Yes,
which
yes.
on. Okay, I get the logic. Thanks so much.
If you have your, like I said, when I work with all these things on other applications, it is always on the local will be on my server IP, wherever it is. It will be maybe is it 2 something, whatever it's gonna be like.
Okay, thank you for the detailed explanation. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So one last question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, David.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you,
Go ahead.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so please, I'm not sure I saw when you configured sending alerts to email. I got the concept of using webhook to connect to Slack for alerts. But I'm
Okay,
not
let
sure
me show you.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is done. Let me just go back. I think alerts in. So can you see me? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see
Excuse me,
you.
can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, so when you go to alerting, it's done for Slack, it's done under the contact points. So you can add a new template. You can add a new contact point. So for me, I had already added one before, right? So, but it doesn't matter. This is what it will show you when you try to add. So you put a name, Grafana, alert type, name my Grafana, my contact point. You know, if you want to use email, you can say email. Come in, you can use alert manager, but for me, I'm using Slack, right? So you put your contact points, any point, if you want to use email, anything you want is there, alert manager, anything. But for me, for the purpose of this thing, for me, and I already said why I enjoy using Slack, right? So Slack is what I use, and you can get the token for Slack on the Slack API. I think you said you understand that. So the Slack API URL will be, and then you try to like test it. You don't need to like, once you read all these things, you see that you don't need it. So all you need is a web Slack API, then test it, and then you can even customize it if you want to customize. But like anything you want to do, you can do it. So it goes to Slack, and when you come to Slack, this is what I just sent now, 9:31.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right.
It seems our mentor is not here in Nigeria.
Sorry, what did you say? Chukwemeka?
I say it seems our mentor is not here in Nigeria. This one I'm seeing AM.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much, Shay. You actually did justice to this lecture. You know, the information you gave us today is just too important in this stage of our bootcamp, really. So, because monitoring is like one of the most taxing jobs in DevOps. Because if anything goes down, right, then it's the responsibility of the monitoring team to quickly escalate to the first level support team to remediate issues. So again, what Shay has shown us today is very, very essential and important. The important thing about Grafana and Prometheus is that it's open source and it's very, very flexible. So again, like, I don't think it's everybody that will understand, like, what she has given us today is gold. Do you understand? You won't see things like this on YouTube. I can bet you. You won't see things like this, you know, a very, very comprehensive information like this on YouTube, especially when it comes to instrumentation of applications like .NET Core, you know, Golang, and what have you. So I know the headache involves when it comes to performing open telemetry and instrumentation of applications with Prometheus. Like it's next level. It's next level, especially if you are working directly with Prometheus, right? But if you are using things like Dynatrace, Datadog, all of those tools, you know, they already come out of the box. And even with that, you still do some level of open telemetry for you to be able to get metrics from your application. But one very important thing is that you need to work with your developer to understand the kind of metrics to scrap. So once again, thanks you so much, Shay. You know, Shay is a very, very busy person. I've been on her neck, I think, for like several months now. And I just told myself that I will have to wait because she's the only person in my circle that can actually do justice to this. So once again, Shay, thank you so much. Like, we are so grateful. And I'll just So I will just take few announcements, and then I will hand over to Nuruddin, who is also a co-founder, to, you know, further appreciate Shay. So next week, guys, we'll be taking Kubernetes next week, Saturday by 2 p.m. We'll be taking Kubernetes. Then for the assignment on Docker as well, I have gotten all of our image details, and would cross-check all of those things tonight, so that if there are other places that you need to improve on, we could always send the email. We could always send the details on our Discord group. Okay, all right. So I think that is just the only information I have. So get ready for Kubernetes next week. Then the following week we'll talk about CI/CD. All right. Thank you so much, Shay. Over to you, Nuruddin.
Thank you, Dapo.
Hi everyone. Hello, Oluwaseyi. Thank you so much for the session. I think I enjoyed it very, very well. And even in the back channel here with the co-founders, we're talking about, you know, your way of presentation and the way you'll be able to pass the knowledge across, which is very, very unique. And I kind of like the strategy you've used. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking out your time for us. I do appreciate that. However, I would like to ask you if you have probably tasks that you want the mentees to work on, just to improve their skills on getting to use Prometheus and so on. I would like to ask you about that.
Okay, so I would just say that for hands-on and just to start this, you can just create a POC using any language you're comfortable with. And if you have any challenge, you can reach out to me. I drop my email address, and I think I'm also available on LinkedIn as Oluwaseyi Adelusi. So just like create a POC with base, like just a base configuration using Prometheus and Grafana for any application for any language you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that should work well for every one of them. And I will also say maybe you can probably create regarding to Python, because I believe a high amount of them use Python very, very well. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you. I do appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Dapo, it's nice to do
All
this
right.
with you.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I appreciate it.
Enjoy the
All right.
rest of your weekend.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.